Hey everybody. This is Eric Campbell, as you may have noticed from, honestly, from the bottom half of the screen and for the fact that I've got essentially a fake classroom scene behind me. For the first time in a long time, you'll find that I'm not actually coming to you 5 minutes before one of my classes at any one of a few trade shows, but I'm actually coming to you directly on Facebook Live from my office at another time so that I can actually let you know about things that are coming up ahead of schedule. So I've had some people say, hey, it's great that you come to us from the show floor. It's great that you show up and talk to us, but we would love to see people aware and knowing what's coming up with you, not just finding out while you're already out there in live. So I guess I haven't been promoting well enough, and I'm sorry for that, folks, but I'm happy to say that that's something that I'm going to start doing more of. And live content and streaming is something that I really want to do. So if you've noticed the title of this stream, you may see that it says Fridays with Eric. And then I'm going to talk about not only some stuff that has happened, but some plans for upcoming streaming content. Well, as I've seen more and more people going live, and I've had requests from people to continue going live myself, I realized that really I should be doing this more frequently. And my plan going forward, now I say plan, it's not something I'm sure is going to happen yet, is to at least come on once a week, Fridays, and have some time where I get to talk about topics that I want to talk about. It may be digitizing education, it may be classes, it may be any number of things, and we'll talk more about that as we get into it. But for right now, as you can see, I'm well lit, have the camera set up, and I have a lot of the skills I'm developing producing for two regular guys. So, what I'd like for you guys to see is just a little bit about what I have done previously up to this point. I'd like you guys to see a little bit about what's coming up for educational events, and I'd just like to get you jazzed about what's possible for us to do while I'm streaming here. So first thing, as you can see, I have the faux classroom. The reason I have that here is that I really want to talk about the classes I've already gotten to teach and the ones that are coming up. The first thing is, we're just going to go ahead and switch over to a browser. I'm going to talk a little bit about Impressions Expo. Now, recently, this month, I was off at Impressions Expo in Long Beach, and the great thing about that, got to go and teach and see stuff on the floor. There was great new technologies there. Everybody's asking about color reel, and I've talked endlessly about the color reel technology, but I actually saw some really incredible stuff in the ZSK booth around computer vision, patch attachment, multimedia, really great stuff there. And so honestly, Impressions Expo in Long Beach was just a fantastic event. Great place to see all the new technology, great place to teach people, and I really enjoyed the time I got to spend with my seminar attendees. And I'll say, got my reviews and stuff today, and it's always, it's a big deal. I don't know about the other people who are teaching, aside from the ones who I know very well. And the ones I know well, who I really consider to be friends, are like me. You really care that you reach out and you touch people and you help them. And for me, it was incredible to see the reviews and have people say, hey, you know what? This was good, worked for me, this taught me something. I had somebody who said, best thing I've seen at any ISS show, and that touched me. So whoever you are out there, thank you very much for that feedback. The thing that made me excited is I saw my embroidery people, right? People who were dyed-in-the-wool embroiderers really thinking about marketing, branding, customer experience, and looking to make profit. And honestly, it was on every scale, from what we now call kind of micro business, home cottage business, the prosumers who are moving into the professional space, which is one of the kind of segments I taught, all the way up into the large producers. Now, the large producers seem to catch that a little earlier, but really it was just a different world where sometimes I feel like the print side of the world acknowledges that stuff first. Well, this time I saw our embroidery world coming up and saying, hey, we want that too. We want to do experiential marketing. We want people to see us and brand to reflect who we are in purpose and have business plans in place. Really cool stuff to see. And honestly, that and just getting to talk to people technically about embroidery is always great. So that was in Long Beach, and you can see that it was going on here. And when you go over to the conferences, there will be more Impressions Expo conferences that I will be at. I will announce more as things are firmed up for plans. I'm really thinking about making a return to Texas. So Fort Worth, very likely that I'll be there. And there may be one other stop in between there that I'm trying to iron out right now and sign up for. So when you go up to the expo shows, you can always go to the conference and see the conference speakers here. And frequently enough, boy, lots of my friends on this list. So love to see everybody out there. But one of the people who is there is, of course, me, and you'll see my happy little head up here with the several classes I taught. And the other great thing about this one too, I didn't get to talk about this earlier. I did 3 seminars myself, but one of the cool things was I get to do a panel discussion where there was Joyce Jagger and Steve Friedman and Sam, who's the new marketing president over at Madeira USA, was there, and he did a great job as a moderator. So that was really cool too, to talk with other people who are, my peers and have them up on stage with me. I've only ever done this on my own. But what I'm actually going to go and show you is just talk a little bit about the 3 sessions that I did personally. And this is what I really had going on while I was there. The last one I'm going to talk about first, because I just got done kind of explaining to you guys how I feel about the people in business really kind of getting it in embroidery. And that's from hobby to business, avoiding pitfalls on the path from prosumer to professional. I went a little crazy with the alliteration there, but that aside, this is a really well-received little piece. Not too many people got to see it. It was very late, last day of the show. But what I want to say is that the people who were there were very engaged. And the thing that was incredible about this is not a here's how you do embroidery class. This is here's how you approach business. Here's how you approach pricing and value. Here is what it means to be in business. Here is what success looks like for an embroiderer. And that resonating with people is something that I'm really glad I saw. So that was one of the pieces that I did. Also, there was the Good Designs from Interview to Execution. It's one that I've updated and done similar versions of at other shows, but it's something that got updated and revamped and made new for this show. And this was really about everything from how to do customer interviews, how to get the information you need, how to communicate with people, and how to execute and manage customer expectations. That's something that I'm definitely going to talk about on this channel again as I get a chance to. And the last one that we had was actually this is the first one that I did, and honestly very well attended, a nice full class. Early on, first day, that Thursday before the show opened, digitizing, editing, lettering, and fonts. Now this is a very traditional class. This is not something that I would consider out on the edge like some of the other stuff I did this year. However, the fact that it was so well received, once again, it was something I really loved. Now, we all know in embroidery, digitizing lettering, dealing with fonts, having to correct for small fonts, honestly, sometimes having to make durable large fonts. It's something that we're always dealing with, and text is unforgiving because letter shapes are geometric and very clean, and everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to look like. So we know that that is something technically difficult. Talking about that with a crew of people was great. The only thing that was fun about that is people came up to me saying, why didn't they let you do longer? It's not necessarily that it didn't let me do a longer piece, but I really did pack that one tight. So everybody in the comments said, hey, Erich talks pretty fast, and I think he was trying really hard to get through everything. Loved the class, but wish we had more time for it. So at some point, folks, maybe I'll see if there's a way to do a longer lettering class. And it's funny to think of something that we take for granted as such a small part of what we do, especially as digitizers, people who do custom work, where you think about the difficult, graphical pieces you do, the photographic pieces, the blending, the shading, the various kind of distorted shapes you have to work with. And we don't think about lettering sometimes after a while. I mean, it's still difficult. Small lettering is always a thing. But to think that people wanted more than a couple hours of this is interesting to me. I'd love to see what we could do. How deep can we get on lettering? I think there's a lot left to go. Because lettering is just so essential. Personalization is so essential. And as we're going into the micro business thing, I think you're going to find more and more personalization, lettering, naming being important to everybody. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to some stuff that's going to happen coming up soon, right? So let's jump over to our browser again, and we're going to move off from Impressions Expo to Dax, right? The Dax Trade Show. And Dax Trade Show, I really love. Decorated Apparel Expo, it's a fantastic show. Well, all 3 of the shows are fantastic shows, but this is really where I cut my teeth teaching and where I do my longest seminars. And so I really love the chance to get to do a bit of a deeper dive, and Dax gives me that chance every year. So I'd love to see you people out at Dax. As you can see, what's coming up fairly immediately, a couple weeks out, a little more than a couple weeks out, is Kansas City. So Dax in Kansas City, February 21st and 22nd. However, my first class is actually on setup day the day before. My long seminar, it's a little over 3 hours long in just content, and then there's some Q&A and breaks in there. So my longest seminar is actually on February 20th. So if you want to get out there and see my seminar, you're going to have to come out earlier. However, as you can see, award-winning, awesome trade show. Let's get into Kansas City. This is where we are in Kansas City Expo. Really wonderful little place. Great classrooms and great event, really. What I'll say is that the people on the floor are there to help you. You have a lot of, for people who are actually going to have booths as well. For those of you who are in the industry with me who might be wanting to have a booth, Dax, I find, is a very high value. The people who come to Dax are very interested and engaged and are very glad to be given a chance to see all the vendors and all the technology and everything that's coming up. So a lot of qualified buyers, a lot of people who are there to do business. And what I'd like to say is, for everybody goes, oh, small shows maybe aren't as critical. It's not a small show. Number one, it's not tiny. It's not a single hotel room. And even those, honestly, those little table shows are great too for their own things. But the Dax show is more sizable than you think and way more engaged than you imagine. So if you've never been to a Dax show, get out to a Dax show now. And definitely all of you folks who are maybe in the prosumer space who think, I don't know if I want to go to a commercial show, like the commercial show is going to be too big, too much. Dax is also one of the friendliest places I've ever been. So definitely go to the Dax shows, and that's just something I would recommend for anybody. So if you're in Kansas City, and I'll go back here, if you are in Minnesota, Treasure Island in April, or in late April, Tinley Park in Illinois, Chicagoland Dax, all fantastic shows, all great venues. And if you're in Minnesota, you're out to the casino at Treasure Island on the island, you might get a little vacation time in too. So let's go ahead and go to the seminar offerings from Dax. And as you can see, they say best education in the industry. And I mean, I could agree with you, but I might be a little, biased considering I'm a big part of that. So as we go into the listings, you'll see there's some other great stuff. You've got Katie Woodman over here teaching embroidery from A to Z. Very much more hands-on stuff to talk about embroidery and what it's done, how. But this is my first piece, and that's Debating Digitizing, Expert Answers for the Digitizing Curious. Now, this particular one is a little bit more for people who are looking to get into digitizing. There is some digitizing education in here. There are parts about how to learn digitizing, what kind of knowledge you need to become proficient at digitizing. However, a good part of it is also, hey, if you have a shop, why does digitizing make sense and why might it not make sense to you? So part of this is also me saying, hey, here are the reasons why people think they want to digitize or think they want to bring digitizing in-house. However, here are the reasons why it might not be okay for you. Here are other things you might want to do. And here are actual reasons, the real reasons that make the most sense for bringing digitizing in-house. So we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about complications of digitizing and distortion, stuff that people might not know, a little bit about what someone who is, say, a vector designer, a print designer brings to digitizing and what they can bring across, what skills are applicable. And then we'll get into developing an eye for stitch types. Stuff like that, where you can kind of start to use stitch types and the light and sheen and texture of embroidery to add value to your decorations. And we end up with physical tools, selecting your software, and honestly a little bit about safety. I know this sounds weird to say safety. You're like, oh, you're chained to a desk. What's so dangerous about it? Well, that's the thing. Being chained to a desk and using these tools with our hands all day will eventually cause you injury. And a lot of digitizers I know have RSI, have repetitive strain injuries. So I talk a little bit at the end about input tools, partially just to say what are the preferences for digitizing as a process itself, but also to say, hey, how can you reduce some of the damages and set up your workstation so that it is more ergonomic and safer for you to work so you can work longer and do your best work. And then as you can see, tons of other classes here. And I'm looking through this list and just fantastic people, also some free classes, and then there's one more from me, treatments and digitizing techniques for specialty threads. And this is talking about thick and thin thread digitizing. This one is only like an hour and 15, so we're not going to be able to get super deep on everything. But thick and thin threads, a little bit about specialty finishes, a little bit about metallics, and then some about wool and cotton blends. Some thick threads, some thin threads, different usages, and some use cases and markets. So short hit, but kind of some cool stuff, especially if you're out there and you really haven't thought about this. You're still just kind of using polyester 40 weight thread and not much else. This would be a good class for you to go to just to kind of check that out. So with all of that going on, that's what's happening at Dax. We're going to have that for the 20th and the 21st. On the 22nd, Still Dax going on. As you can see, many more classes going on. Matt from the Rhinestone World is there, great guy. And we've got Clay, who's teaching for CorelDRAW, and hey, Terry Combs. And you know that we have Terry and Aaron both out there too teaching. So 2 regular guys, fans, regulators, get out there and see us. And the other thing we are going to have that we haven't gotten to talk about is we'll have a presence there for the decorators community. So the decorators community, as you may know, powered by the 2 regular guys, it is where we are trying to really provide education and give people like me and like others who are out there doing things in the industry a platform for education and some help in order to get it out there where you guys can all access it. And to that end, I'm going to talk about what is the other big upcoming thing in my educational offerings, and that would be the Demystifying Digitizing webinar. Now, this is just the landing page for it, and yes, it feels very strange to have my head superimposed over my old picture, but this is the start of everything that's going to happen for this webinar. One of the favorite classes I have ever taught was one of the longer classes I taught for Dax early on, and it was called Demystifying Next Level Digitizing. And in that piece, I talked about improving your embroidery, adding texture, using sheen, and I gave the first version of one of kind of the sections of digitizing education that I teach the most, which is about how to be a scientific stitcher, how to test, repeat, and alter designs and do quicker, cleaner work. And that piece was kind of the capper to the whole Demystifying Next Level Digitizing workshop, and it was a longer kind of workshop seminar format. Well, I'm finally bringing that online through the decorators community. So what you can see here is on March 28th, 2020, I'm going to be sharing those techniques to make your embroidery bolder, more beautiful, and more valuable to customers while making the digitizing process faster and easier. What does this mean? I'm actually going to teach that favored class that everybody wanted to come back. I'm doing it live as a webinar. So it is a paid webinar, but it is something we're doing through the decorators community. Aaron from 2 Regular Guys is helping me out to get that sorted out. And what you can see here is if you go to my website, erichcampbell.com, at demystifying-digitizing-webinar, I'll get you a better link and I'll post it in the comments below. That will give you this chance to sign up fairly soon. You'll be getting some free ebook content and a couple of messages from me to kind of get you understanding what we're going to do in the webinar and see if you want to get involved. So that's coming soon. I've had a lot of people say, I can't get out to the trade shows. I would love to see more of what you're teaching, but I don't get a chance to see. I don't get out to the coast. I don't get out to Dax, or I'm in a state where it's hard for me to get out there or just can't get away from business. This is finally that chance where I can teach you guys directly, and we're going to have real direct Q&A and specialty offers. So if you get in on this soon, you're going to be in for the cheapest way to see me at a conference without having to fly out somewhere yourself. So that's one of the other upcoming educational options I have. And what I'd like to talk about briefly right now is the whole concept of this Fridays with Erich. So what I'm expecting is that I will probably have some prepared topics, some things that I want to talk about that I think are valuable. Probably a lot of these coming from questions that I take throughout the week, things that I talk to you guys about that people are engaging with me about, or things that I learn when I'm out traveling for trade shows or in my work in developing software, the Infinite Brilliance. Any of these things could become fodder for one of these Fridays, but what I want to do is check in with everybody. Hopefully we'll start getting people live so that we can do some Q&A, and in and among those things we can do everything from me showing some of my presentations. Those slides that I showed you earlier, and I'm going to jump back over here, those are actually my full presentations. Now, I'm not going to show you everything that's on Impressions right now, but there may come a time where I get to do a little bit of seminar-style teaching on the Fridays. And the other thing I'm hoping to do at some point is some live digitizing. I think that I can either digitize live or do some training where I can teach you guys some stuff. I mean, right now I've been working a ton with fonts and text, and this is something that I've actually done just to scratch my own itch. It's off of a lovely type sample from a metal type sales case to kind of show you that stuff. And I have been working out some keyboard fonts that I would like to release at some point. But that's something that I'd like to talk about, or to say, hey, how are you doing the stuff that you do with texture? How are you digitizing this particular piece? What choices went into that? And I think that that's something I would really love to be able to show everybody, is to actually see, what do you do? How is it done? And to show people solutions for things like, say, how would I break up a letter like this? How would I handle a certain type of stitching? What can I do to correct an error that I found in my stitch out? What do I do to make a gradient work? I would love to show you that stuff live, and I think that there's really a chance for us to do some really cool work online. So honestly, that's what I'm hoping for Fridays with Erich. I don't know if it'll be every Friday right now, but I'm surely going to try to make that happen, and it may be something that we start scheduling more like a show. And honestly, down the road, I'd love to bring other people in on this, because there are certainly some things that I've been planning for a long time to do with talking with more decorators, preserving the history of machine embroidery and decoration as a thing, because there are so many people who are wealths of knowledge who really should be listened to and that we should all know more about, and to see what's new and what's upcoming from new decorators and people with a different spin on things. So this doesn't take away from any other project I'm involved in. I'm still bringing new guests over to Two Regular Guys, but every once in a while there may be some people who I want to get in deep with some digitizing, some embroidery, and bring them over here. So could be any kind of content on this. Could just be me doing this again, talking head style, where I talk to you guys on my own, or share some things that I'm thinking about in the world of embroidery, and truthfully in the world of decoration, sales, and e-commerce. You never know when we might be talking about setting up an e-commerce store, handling customer service, business plans, purpose, motivation, and employees. Could be any of these things, but I do foresee a lot of direct embroidery education, some software education, and honestly, my core has always been digitizing, so I'd love to talk digitizing with everybody too. It's something I still love and enjoy, and do with great regularity. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. It's been a good long stream so far, and hopefully some of you got to see it. Still working on the technology behind getting the streaming done, but at least I can tell you that this is a plan going forward that should bear some fruit for both educational purposes and honestly just to inspire, enlighten, give you a little break from your day. So from me, Erich Campbell, as you can see from the many instances of my name, this has been Fridays with Erich, and I hope to see you next week.